Good evening, viewers. This is your host, Dr. Gilbert Kisharu Githere, coming to your homes with Mazungumzo. Thank you for allowing me to come to your homes. About this time, everybody is supposed to wear a mask. You're wearing masks, washing hands, keeping distance. So this thing can go away, COVID-19. We're praying so much. So I come to your home occasionally. I hope I don't bore you. Try very much. And today we are going to discuss Friedrich Hegel. Those people who know Hegel is a giant. He studied the theory of dialectics, which he proved that life is nothing but dialectics. We are always living dialectics. And I'm going to try and touch a few things here and there. It is a huge discussion, phenomenology of spirit, phenomenology of history. He almost wrote about everything on the surface of the earth. That's why you see he's revered, and he's about 250 years after his death, but he's still very influential. So I will, after we entertain ourselves with a bit of music, bear with me, the songs I take sometimes I don't go very exactly how they go, but it's just to alleviate the stress, anxiety that we are going through during this time as we stay at home. So bear with me. This time I'm trying Eric Clapton, with his song, It's Late in the Evening. It's late in the evening, and she's wondering what to wear. She puts on her makeup, and she brushes her long black hair. And then she asks him, do I look alright? I say yes, you look so wonderful tonight. We go to a party, and everybody there to see all these beautiful ladies walking around me. And then she asked me, do you feel alright? And I say yes, baby, I feel so wonderful tonight. And I feel so wonderful because I see the love light in your eyes. And the wonder of it all is that you just don't realize how much I love you. It's time to go home. I'm a little intoxicated. I give her the car keys to see me home. Before I put off the light, and then I tell her, my darling, you are so wonderful tonight. You are so wonderful tonight. You are so wonderful tonight. Eric Clapton. I hope I've done him justice. Thank you. Now, we go a bit to discussing Hegel. And those people who know Hegel is the most difficult philosopher you can ever read. He is just deciphers ideas to the nano level. If there is anybody who has actually digested issues to nano level, the smallest bit you can ever think of, is Hegel, Friedrich Hegel. And Hegel came after Immanuel Kant. And those people who know Immanuel Kant, he's also a giant of sort. So actually what I can say, and I'm very sure because I have read both of them, kind of page to page, is that actually Hegel takes Immanuel Kant, who is his countryman, because also Immanuel Kant spoke Deutsch. He was a German. And Hegel is a German. And Martin Heidegger is a German. So these giants, they very much, perpetuated or looked at what each other had written. Because Immanuel Kant in the Critique of Pure Reason, he actually very, very much helps us to see how do human beings acquire knowledge. What do they have in their brains that make them acquire knowledge? And this they do from a philosophical point of view. So they don't have formulas. They use language. They use language to explain to us how we acquire knowledge as human beings. And that's the most important thing to realize. And somebody like Immanuel Kant, he lets us realize that actually human beings are very special creatures. Now, I'm not using the theory or the conspiracy of others. No, we are not others. It's just the way we as human beings created in the image of God have this ability to acquire knowledge because of our DNA, how it's put up in our system, our nervous system, our body, and our whole being. We are able to acquire knowledge. And actually from the liquids we get from our two original parents, the female and the male, there comes a huge network of information already impacted in us, in our brains, in our systems. And one of these very important element of that knowledge that comes to us from the two fluids, waters of our parents, is the ability of apperception. And closely to explain a perception is like, let's say, for example, when you type something in a computer nowadays, you realize that the computer over time gives you options. Let's say you're going to write the name Gilbert. It kind of goes and it has GLLBERT and bang. Or it has GLERT. That's another. It gives you options. Now, their perception, that's the equivalent of a perception. In a human being's brains when they are born as children. And this, it can be critiqued. I am not a specialist in medicine or nervous system or how message travels in brains. But what I'm saying is that communication that comes from the two parents, the words that they have accumulated over life, it comes into our formation. And there are things which are inborn. That's why, when a child starts speaking, he's speaking from this store, archive of a huge knowledge stored in the system of his brain. And that's why you see when they're talking and you look at the computer things, how it gives you alternatives. A kid has this habit, a child, of, throwing words, rhyming, and equivalents, and wrong words, but they seem to be making, she or him have picked them from somewhere that the brain is kind of chipping out ideas and throwing them their words. And in the end, you see them pronouncing mama, dad, dog, water. You know, now in that formation of knowledge, the big difference between Immanuel Kant is that Immanuel Kant considers, a knowledge as coming from the formation of the ideas. Ideas. We acquire ideas through experience. We start to have ideas in our brain. And these ideas, they come as intuition, a perception. And we do analysis, we do judgment. And then we go to things like synthesis. We synthesize them. And certainty. There is no uncertainty about the linking of these things which are accumulating in our minds. And you see we start to have concrete formation of ideas into our brains. Now, I'm not going to go to details of Immanuel Kant. I'm just going to say Hegel. He says that all that is happening, the accumulation of knowledge, experience, understanding, intuition, concepts, all these things form consciousness. The biggest thing about what the human being is doing, he's building consciousness. And Immanuel Kant stresses the importance of consciousness. It's as if whatever we do, we're using consciousness. But if you look at it deeply, that we have now known how a human being works, using science, using the computer sciences, cybernetics, using artificial intelligence, we have come to realize that consciousness, as much as Hegel respects consciousness, consciousness is not something we use on daily basis that makes us survive, that allows us to exist. Existence is such a spontaneous thing, a chance thing, that you cannot even just associate with only consciousness. And Martin Hegel is the one who actually differs with, he differs a lot with Hegel. Because Hegel, gives so much importance to consciousness. And he starts from I, somebody knowing himself, Descartes. Descartes, I am, I think, so I am. Somebody has the ability to think. So they know, I am. But Hegel takes up Descartes and takes up Immanuel Kant's ideas. And he says, before you develop the idea of saying I, there is so much contradiction in the building of I, the self. And before you even start to see the outside of you, your environment and the things and the objects that Walheim, Oman van Quine, Object and Word, in his book, you start to see things that way. And it has to have words to go with its objects you see outside you. You have first to define yourself. And in that defining of oneself, there is so much contradiction. There is so much negating and acceptance, negating and agreeing of who you are exactly. You make mistakes in defining yourself, then you correct it, and that what was wrong that you had thought you are, you throw it away. And in that process of negating and accepting the positive and negative. To every action there is a reaction. You start to decipher exactly who you are. And in Charles Sanders Peirce, the solenoid of semiotics, how you build sentences that are relevant in your life. The ice is white. Is white, the predicate is white. The ice is white. Ice is white. Ice is a noun. Predicate is white. Now you build huge archive of sentences from these social tools called words. A word is a social tool, and it's the one which helps you build who you are. And sometimes you make mistake in that forming of sentences of who you are, because this is what you pass to your offsprings. This is what humans pass in the liquids, I say, which come from the parents. This is the knowledge that is passed from one generation to the other. And that's where Hegel actually was king. Because you see, he starts that all this happened from universal law. And they follow a certain law in happening. Like a plant. A plant can never grow downwards. It grows up because it's looking for sunlight. There are requirements and there are natural laws. A tree grows up because it wants to conduct photosynthesis, which is paramount to its survival. So the biggest thing that, the most important thing that Hegel is commended for is how life is dialectical. The dialectics. If you put a seed in the ground for it to survive and have offsprings, it has to go to be negated. That means it will die. Put it in the ground, it's for its own survival. But it has to perish for another one to grow. Now, Hegel gave us a huge definition and explanation of that cycle. So he actually gets into defining I, and your values. What motivates you? Now, when he gets there, then he starts to see the external. It is only when you understand yourself, then you can say, there is a tree. There is my neighbor. Him, her. You start to have external explanation of your environment. And that's how Hegel, I cannot go into finishing phenomenology of spirit, but I'm just as adding a kaizen, a small increase on what people are writing. But there was this idea that Hegel did not foresee the coming of postmodernity. As Jean Baudrillard and Richard Rorty and Jacques Derrida have written about the postmodernists. People are saying Hegel, although he helped so much in formulating Des Capital of Karl Marx. Karl Marx actually borrowed a lot from Hegel, especially in dialectics. And you can say Des Capital is phenomenology of spirit standing on its head. Because you remember very well, Karl Marx says that religion is the opium of the masses. Religion confuses masses, and they never realize who exploits them, because there's religion just in between them and the master and the exploiter. Now, Hegel, in the Western philosophy, he is also revered because he is one person and one giant which justifies the existence of religion. He gives religion a foundation and a necessity of being there in our lives. That's the importance of Hegel. And that's why you see, irrespective of how Hegel is difficult to read, everybody, even born-again Christians, they will quote him somewhere because he's their foundation, because he's in the dialectics and in the philosophy of spirit. In the last chapters of closing up the discussion, the consciousness that human beings acquire is all for search of truth, objective reality, and objective reality, in order for you to comprehend it fully, it has to take the form of a spirit. There has to be somebody superhuman above your head and above you in the heavens, who actually gives you the knowledge that you have and bestows you with the consciousness that he has been discussing from the beginning. And that's why Hegel, in most parts, he is very, very much revered, because he does that very, very necessary connection. That in us, there is that being that made the universe, created the universe. And the cosmos, as disciplined as it is, the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and mostly at the same time. It will never fail. The stars come out, the air you breathe, the water you breathe, though people are actually polluting the earth, is constant. Drink the water from the river, it tastes the same in Mombasa, in Tahiti, and in Manalo, in Hawaii. All taste the same. The air quality is the same, and it rains all over the world. These are universal laws made by the person who Friedrich Hegel dedicates the book Phenomenology of Spirit to. But it doesn't mean Jean Bourriard, in his book Simulacrum in 1983, does not respect Hegel. But he just takes him a stage further, in that consciousness now uses image to form. And I discussed that. The digit is using the image as a social tool. Hegel discussing consciousness, you can say it automatically links with the image. You can say he contributed a lot. And until we meet again, this is your host and friend, Dr. Gilbert Gideric, saying ciao ciao.